don't know where we're going to put this. I think that it's not Twin Humanities because it's not Dark Souls. Take a drink. It's maybe the Humanities. You thinking?
Yeah, it's another Humanities. I think because I'm not getting Twin Destiny out for this.
No, because it's a veer, I guess, off from Destiny, but and
not. I've lost the intro music, so
that's good. Then we've made a decision. We've come to a decision. There might be people listening to this that have never listened to us before. This is a cracking start, but this is exactly what you're getting into.
Welcome to Other Humanities, everybody.
Yeah. So we're going to do a special on Warframe today.
Warframe?
Warframe.
What's Warframe, CJ?
I'll tell you in a bit, because I've got it written down about 2 paragraphs down from here. So this is smooth. Smooth jazz. So, Warframe is a free-to-play shooter, which is available on PC, on Xbox One, and PS4.
What kind of person is it? Is it first person or third person?
It's in the third person, Patrick.
Excellent.
Spontaneous
Is that where the
question.
camera sits roughly behind and slightly on the shoulder of the character?
This is gaming gold. This is
brilliant. Yeah, what I'm doing is I'm playing the part of someone who doesn't know anything.
What is a game?
What is a game? How do I breathe?
I'm going to relate to this later on because there was a stream that I watched, Warframe stream, where they had the most brilliant and pertinent question sort of in the middle of the stream, and it's okay. I've been using it at work, like asking people, and they go like, "Where did you get this?" I was like, "Well, I was watching Twitch." There were some games being and what and why. Anyway, so Warframe I hadn't looked at, hadn't even vaguely considered. Maybe down to the free-to-play model, or it just my own sort of ignorant preconceptions, but it hadn't even vaguely been on my radar. I'd seen a few of my friends who I'd played Destiny with, Tara and Tashan. Particularly Tashan was playing it sort of quite heavily and had bought a few bits, but again, it just sort of resided in the that's what they're doing sort of thing.
It exists.
And I was watching an episode of the Easy Allies podcast, and there was a question towards the end where someone wrote in and basically said, "Why don't you cover free-to-play games? Warframe is really, really good. More people need to hear about it, but the media doesn't go near it." And the guys from Easy Allies were saying like, "Yeah, it's absolutely fair enough. I guess the point is that if somebody does fancy it, they can pitch in and download it and sort of see for themselves, but they get so many games come through that people would have to shell money out for that, that's what they cover, and they're busy doing it." But they accepted the comment and the criticism, definitely.
And it's nice to see a games journo coverage site not just spend half of their tabloid space whacking it to Overwatch characters.
Is that what happens?
Oh, you wouldn't believe. I've had to mute it. I'm done.
But yeah, so that question sort of stayed in my mind. I was like, it's fair enough. So on my last day at work at my old job, Tara, who I mentioned earlier, came over and we had coffees, and I asked her about Warframe, and she filled me in on a little bit more of it and stuff. So and I was like, yeah, I'll give this a go. So I downloaded it, and just I found something a bit special. So my first thought was related to a conversation that you and I had in the past, which was about those AA games that were on the PS2 and that sort of generation where it might
sort of like top B.
I don't know what you're saying.
I think it was like good B games.
Yeah, I see what you're using a scale of rating a game that nobody actually uses. So well played from that.
Fine, okay. I'll use a scale other people use then, like a 71 out of 100.
God, I still remember Ace Magazine where they used to do it out of 1,000.
Oh, fuck off!
No, stop swearing, you evil beast.
What's the difference between a 665 and a 664?
Filthy casual.
I'm just asking
so
big questions.
anyway, like those sort of really plucky, ambitious games that might not have had the super all singing, all dancing budgets of your top end studios and stuff, but took risks that were really unusual and really individual, and had got character, and maybe won over a fan base from there because magazines would review it, and maybe the games would push past like the few flaws that they'd have, and they'd maybe get 8s or 9s, and something that people weren't expecting would arrive, and I don't know.
Things a bit wonk, but had something good in them, like Eternal Darkness or Beyond Good and Evil was a good example of that. It was a bit weird and a bit wonk, but it was brilliant.
I think I'd probably switch that round though, where you say like it's kind of mainly brilliant, but it had sort of a few little niggles in there, or a few things that took it away from that AAA stuff. But within that, there were things that it was doing which were, reckless, that were brilliant, that were thrilling, that were wonderfully confusing. And so, from sort of my plane of the first level, that was kind of it. It was level based. Early on, at least, not that visually perfect, but there was just something there. And from where I'm sitting now, and I've got a decent way into the game. I've certainly not seen everything that it can do, and there are massively ambitious plans for it in the future. I'd probably say Platinum Games does Destiny, maybe.
Destiny with ninjas.
I think I see what you're doing there. You're relating to the original pitch of the game, aren't you?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, but what I mean is that you can tear through the levels. It becomes chaotic. You've got different ways of playing. You've got your melee attacks. You've got your rifles. You've got your elemental stuff. You've got your individual bits. But there's a proper clip as you're going through it. And whilst that can vary on the different sort of missions that you're doing, and if you're playing with other people, because we've been on there where it's just, you've gone in there with 4 people, your Warframes have looked sarcastically behind them, and then it's just like poof, it's turned off into the distance. I'm like, but hold on, there's a locker there that might have something in it. There's another one, and I can punch that crate. Oh, you've nearly finished the level.
I've got 12 credits. Hey.
But part of the fun of the game, from where I am now, is that I can't figure it out. And at a point where so many games seem to spell things out to you, the joy of discovering this stuff, and the different tweaks and sort of nuances, and maybe kind of looking on websites or figuring something out, or seeing a stream and just going, oh, that's how that works. Oh my god, I can do that. That I really love anyway. I like that little enigma which takes me back to the fascination with the soul stuff, and I don't know, I'm just becoming more and more fascinated with it. There's this wonderful conundrum that keeps throwing stuff at me, and I'll go like, what are you? Or I'll swear at something, and I'll go, but why is there an old man chucking fire at me while I'm being attacked by dogs? There's some frequent you've got that to come, it's Ace. There's frequent moments of kind of like, oh my god, it's Ace, and I am obsessed. It's all I've been playing this last month. It's all I've wanted to play. I fitted in a few frames.
That's clever.
Thanks.
It's Warframes, isn't it?
That's it. I've sort of, you've derailed me there. I was moving on.
You did a good joke.
So frames. I've done it like when I gotten up. If I can make time before work, most every night I'll either be on the Xbox One version, which is where I've made the most progress, or on PS4 where I started a new character to play alongside you, and we brought in a few other friends, Pete and Gav, to play alongside us. I've been excited to talk about this game for about 5 weeks, and what with my new job, you having time constraints with your new job, and Alf, you went to see Sean get married and stuff.
I did. Congratulations, Sean.
To someone else.
Yeah.
So yeah, we now get time to talk about this. So, you had a different lead-in to me with this.
Yeah,
a long time before.
So when I got my PS4, long time ago, with what the hell did I get it with? Killzone Shadowfall. That's what I got it with. In fact, that was the very first episode of the Humanities, I think. Calzone Shadowfall.
Yeah, oh God.
If I remember rightly. So here we go. This dates it. So I remember downloading it then because it's like, oh, cool. Here's a new free game where you shoot the gun. I'll give that a go. It's free because it's free. Like, and there's it's launch of the PS4. There's not a lot out yet.
Is that it? Because I wouldn't have thought you were a shoot the gun type person until Destiny. But
it was third person, which was better because I tend to like third person games over first person games as a preference. Well, these days I've changed a bit since Destiny, but back in the day it was like, right, if the camera's looking at a man, not looking through the man's eyes, then I'm okay. It's a stupid thing, but it seemed to do me all right. So I thought, it looks kind of interesting, and it was free. There's not a lot out. I had Killzone Shadowfall and not a lot else. So I was like, well, I'll get this then. Downloaded it and gave it a go. When I first started it, the choice of Warframes at the start was different because I think when you start the current version, you get Vault.
Mag and Excalibur.
Yeah, and in the original game, or the original version that I played, Loki was one of them. I think Excalibur was swapped by Loki. I don't know, I can't remember. It's been a while. At any rate, it was Loki that I believe I picked back then. And what I played then is very different to what I've played now. So when I played it back then, it was it felt anyway, very sterile. Like everything was just corridors, and the map was bad, and the abilities were very vague, and some of the controls, like the melee attack, or one of the melee attacks, was mapped to swiping up on the touchpad.
Really?
It was fucking awful. It was really, really bad. I couldn't get on with it. Like you had to do gymnastics with your thumbs to make anything work. Or this is how I remember. Like I say, it's been like 3 years since I played it like the first time. I remember it just being so hideously complicated and it made no sense. And the map to choose like your next level was like just a list in front of a star map, a list that made no sense. I was like, I don't understand what I'm doing. I could pick a planet and then I go here and then I'm creamed. Like I don't get it. And like it wasn't very well explained. I think because it's a free to play game and because it was early on, there was no sort of tutorializing in there. It was just stuff happens and you have to work out what it all means. And I couldn't. It was bad. That's my takeaway. It was complicated and it was bad. Like it didn't feel nice to play, and it didn't make a lot of sense when you were out of the game. Like the main menus and the mission selecting thing was garbage. Like I just remember the hideous menu. So then I put it down and forgot about it for 3 years because I was like, yeah, it's crap. It's not for me. I'm good. And then because this is how everything works, you told me to play it, so I did.
So I was doing like a really cryptic lead-in. I was doing sort of my almost like film-like lead-in. Like, you remember that conversation that we had about AA games and I've been playing this game, just being not sort of stating what it was, but you were like, what is it? Tell me what it is. Tell me what. And
what's this thing?
And I think you were a bit perplexed when I said Warframe, just purely from the sound of it. It was.
I think my initial reaction was, "You are,"
because of your memories of it and the fact that I like to get excited about stuff, and I like doing these podcasts, but I think this was a tier above my excitement for quite some time, I guess.
Okay.
But I was chuffed that you downloaded it because I was really bouncy at that point, and I just I kind of wanted to see what you'd make of it, because I thought it might be your sort of thing, and I kind of wanted to run through those early levels again anyway, but I wanted us to do it.
Well, I had an interesting run with those first levels because I initially loaded it up on my own profile. And when you load up, it's like, hey, do you want to do a tutorial mission to remind you how the game works? And I'm like, yes, please.
Is this when you had a Loki?
So yeah, I did this tutorial, and it lets you pick one of the current 3 starting frames. And I've actually looked this up when we were talking. The 3 starting Warframes, when I initially played it 3 years ago, were Loki, Excalibur, and Mag. So Loki at some point was replaced by Volt. So anyway, I picked Excalibur. I think on your suggestion, I picked Excalibur, and I kind of battered through the level. It was great. It's great. I finished the tutorial, brilliant. And then it took me to the ship, and then I wasn't Excalibur. I was Loki. I'm like, okay. But I was going to be Excalibur, and you were saying, no, it's a good fun frame. I think you'd like it. So I'm thinking, okay then.
Well, I'd seen a bit of a video where it was saying that it's just giving a few details as to sort of what the Warframes could do, but that tipped the hat towards Excalibur being a good one to start with. Plus,
it's got a good simple move like power set that just works for a lot of things.
Yeah, it's also sort of, because it is sort of quite fast and melee based, and you don't really get into the special abilities until later on. But in that same video, they recommended like a choice of weapon for the different weapon sets, and I think in my brain I just chose the opposite one.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
Because you're a contrary piece of shit.
No, I genuinely thought, that's the one I should go for, because but I don't know if I just went by heart. But we'll so.
Really, because every time I've ever told you, I think you'd like this one, you go, nah, pick the other one.
Don't know, I just...
You are a contrary git.
I just think I had a brain fart.
I like Dark Souls too.
I do. I like Mass Effect Andromeda. It's great. I watch Japanese special effects movies. So I kind of jumped on with Loki. I was like, okay, I kind of liked wanting to play with Excalibur. So what I did then is I then hopped onto Laura's profile on my thing, and loaded up and started again with an Excalibur, and then played for it was an evening's worth, wasn't it, of Excalibur with you. And then I realised, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I want to play it on my own bloody account. So then I flipped back to my own account and used Loki for a while. So we're saying names like this. So the names we're saying, like Loki and Excalibur, are the names of the Warframes. So they're the characters that you play as. I think you're a dude in a suit, aren't you? And the Warframes are the suits that you wear. And the designs are amazing. There's
kind of space ninjas.
There's something a little bit off kilter about them. Like, they're not trying to go near the designs that Halo has done for years, or do variations on those. They seem a little bit, a togi. They seem a little bit Amano-like. There's something sort of really, really elegant and yet disturbing about them at the same time, and I find myself still staring at a lot of those designs, just going like, I mean, we were on last night and we were looking at the different Warframes and just going, oh my god, that's beautiful. And then you found that one that was like a living speaker system, and we were like, what?
I'm looking explain
at that very hard. That right now before we move on, because it was really cool.
Okay, so one of the Warframes, which I've definitely got my eye on, is called Octavia, and she seems to have the power of disco. She's skinny.
At that point, and it started to go up my nose.
She's smooth,
but he's right.
She's skinny. She's resplendently pink, with like these weird sort of round speaker panels hanging off of her arms and her legs. And every one of her powers is about music of some sort. One of them, you throw a little disco ball out, and everyone chases it. They all just chase it. And it damages them on the beat of the music.
That was it. I remember you saying that last night. And
there's another one where if you fire off your metronome power. So what I was looking this up. So you can basically make a song yourself in this metronome. So you can plan out the beats and the music.
This is crazy.
And then if you're so as your friends run around, if they do things on the beat, they get bonuses. So if they crouch on the beat, they go invisible. If they like punch on the beat, they get stronger. If they jump on the beat, they can run faster. It is bonkers mental. Her name is Octavia, and she is brilliant and bizarre, and it's the one I've got my eye on next.
There was one on the live stream that loads of people had done fan art for, where there was I don't know if the Warframe was called Kraken or if this power was Kraken, but basically like snakes come out of the ground. And like massive thrashing wild snakes.
Oh, that's from Hydroid, the water boy.
Yeah, it might be.
He looks like the sea monsters from Captain Scarlet.
Yeah.
No, Stingray. Sorry.
it's I was like, oh, that's really cool, and people have drawn some really neat stuff.
Aquamphibian, that's what he looks like.
So, but when there are loads of different Warframes, like I say. When you start off,
there's like 30, isn't there?
There's a huge amount. When you start off, there's 3 sort of starting classes. There's Excalibur, which is kind of like a very muscly, slim, plasticine rhino man.
Yeah, he's got a sweet horn.
Yes. And then there's Volt, which seems to be not dissimilar looking. I've dressed mine up on PS4, so he looks like the Reverse Flash, which is ace when I use the speed thing on there.
It does look good.
Yeah. And Mag, he's still an unknown option to me at this point. So
seems to be gravity powers, from what I can tell.
Excalibur, I mean, I've taken the debut abilities of that sort of to their extreme, and as you go along, because you've got like when you start, or I started, you've got 3 slots that you can fill. There's rifle, handgun, and melee. So I chose bow for the rifle section. This ace sort of Robocop gun, which I think is called the Lato, and a big knife, this massive knife. And you've got
that's called a sword.
No, it's called I can't think of the name of it.
Sword.
I think you're right. Then we'll go with that. But you've got like variants that you can do. Like you can choose like a
big bow staff, can't you?
Yeah, instead of the sword.
Or throwing knives, like I picked from the instead of a handgun, which were quite fun.
Do you remember what the other one was from instead of the bow? Was that a rifle?
Oh, just a machine gun. Boring bastard machine gun.
I mean, I think it's important, knowing the early levels, to have options for stealth and to be brash. Like the bow kind of has got this wonderful kind of when it hits people, and it like sticks them into walls, and you see them writhing off the edge of the walls. The amount of giggles that come from that as well, and nobody can hear you.
Yeah,
so
the range on it as well. If you do it from really close up and from like below them on some stairs, you can ping that motherfucker across a hall.
We had a few sort of steak nights, didn't we?
Yeah.
So
very good.
So yeah, it is great. The knife, you can do sort of a really delicious sort of Souls-like backstab. I've mentioned it again. Take a drink. But that's really cool. But I noticed that if you're on PS4, you can get like a promo pack which includes a glaive, and instead of stabbing them in the back with a sword, you kind of go behind them and slice their neck with like the blade of the glaive.
Ooh.
It's pretty cool. I still like the sword stuff, but yeah, when I took. You've also got if you hold in kind of right one on the PS4, it brings up sort of a series of options with your face buttons,
power buttons, which you initially ignored.
I did, because I
was yelling at you the whole time because I was having so much fun with mine.
I was just lovely, sort of going through and just going choppy, 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 gun, poof. But yeah, you hold down sort of the right knuckle button, and you bring up these power buttons, and you get abilities which grow as you sort of expand your Warframe. And one of these, which you haven't seen because it was on my Excalibur Xbox One class, was it was called something Blade. And basically you run along, and if something tries to shoot you, you essentially do like Jedi lightsaber stuff by just twirling the blade around in your hand and just knocking the bullets away. But when you go super fast when you activate this ability, and just like every time you swipe the sword, it fires out like arc bolts from the sword into the distance. It just becomes a killing spree.
That sounds like Metal Gear Rising.
It's beautiful. And you know, on those levels where you've got like the cryopod and you have to sort of defend it from waves of enemies and stuff, when that kicks in, it's just like a murder fest. It's absolutely amazing. So Volt on PS4, I haven't really played. We haven't had chance to play that much together. So
We've done a bit, haven't we? We've. I mean, I've unlocked all 4 powers on 2 guys now, because they're where the kind of the fun bits come from. Because everyone can use guns and everyone can sort of shoot stuff, but the powers are where it comes to hand, aren't they? So for Loki, the ones he has, he's more of a trickster. So his powers, his first one is a decoy, so you can create a hologrammatic version of you that does actually shoot things, which is quite fun. But they'll go and attack him, so you can kind of run away. His second power is invisibility, so you can just poof out of sight and then run around and stab people in the arse, which is quite fun. He can switch teleport, so you can choose another person or enemy or your own decoy and switch places. So you can like go and sort of switch it, which is okay, but not kind of very situational. And the last one is quite fun, which is called radial disarm. So you fire that off. That's like your big power. You fire that off, and every enemy with a gun drops their gun and has to resort to melee attacks, which is brilliant. It's really fun. But I found Loki a bit weak because he was getting shot a lot and dying a lot. So I decided to change things up a little bit. I may have acquired a bit of platinum.
Did you get the PlayStation Plus pack, or did you
I spent that on
a bit
a cape
of coin as well?
I spent that on capes.
Yeah, I remember that. That's so you.
I think I spent that on capes and possibly punching weapons, but we'll get back to that. I decided to buy a new Warframe. I got a bonus, like 50% off any platinum purchase thing with my daily bonus when I logged on. So I was able to get my Warframe for, instead of 350 platinum, it was more like about 170.
Oh, cool.
Which is good. And the Warframe I picked is a man called Atlas. And Atlas is exactly what you would expect. He's a giant boy, a giant meat man with a helmet that looks like it's wedged in a blob of like sticky bacon blue tack, with like a bacon rasher cape hanging down the front of his body, and just 2 giant meaty mountain arms.
You see, I described this to you far more elegantly as like an Egyptian Cylon.
Yeah, that's good too. Laura calls him the blue tack man.
Yeah, fair
because
play.
the bacon on his shoulders does look like munched up blue tack. So I picked him, and because I thought I'm always like to kind of get up and punch stuff. You know, the classic, the Twin Humanities style has always been: you stand back being a cool guy from miles away, I stand in the middle like a twat going, ha 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 ha!
And somehow it works, because the stuff that comes to kind of twat you from behind, I take out from distance, and the stuff that's sort of right there in the middle, you just cause huge amounts of chaos with. Every
bullet that hits me in the front. Like, I know where it's all coming from. They're going to hit me, but I know, and I take it all in the front. Nothing sneaks up on me. So I picked him instead. So Atlas has a better set of abilities, for me anyway. His first one is a move called Landslide, which is kind of like a rushing punch. And if you do that more than one time, so if you keep hitting the button and you've got enough power, it does a 3-hit combo that gets stronger and stronger. And the rock that appears on your hand that you punch with gets bigger and bigger, resulting in a wonderful uppercut that knocked a guy off of a ledge. I actually put a tweet up the other day. The first time I did that. You
could hear me laughing as well at the same time.
Yeah, the first time I did it, and he just flew off a ledge like, oh, I found a power. I've got a thing.
It was just really bizarre, because it was like out of the corner of my vision, and I just turned around at the right time.
So his second power is really silly. It's you make a rock wall in front of you, so you can use that as cover, or you make a rock wall and then you press the power button again, and he rolls it into a ball and fires it off forward like Indiana Jones.
It was rather magnificent when I saw it yesterday, but not as good as the Rockmen.
Rock
Boys with the bass.
Yeah, so he's got a petrify power, which is kind of okay, but more like when you're in a group. But yeah, his final power is Rumblers, and it summons 2 rocky boys to run around and just rumble some guys, just to put their fists in their faces and legs. Just pound, pound, pound. And you can just keep casting it. As long as you've got energy, you can just keep bringing them back. They don't last very long, but they do make an impact. And it has resulted in some delicious chaos. So I've got 2 rock boys running in, and then throwing in a ball of rock from behind them, and then a rocky punch as well. It's ridiculous. And it is almost exactly me. Like, I like to stand in the middle and hit things really, really hard with a mountain. And Atlas lets me do that.
You see, with Volt, like I say, I haven't gotten that into it on PS4. There is that really cool sort of moment, discharge, where he just like rises into the air and sort of electricity crackles around, and everybody sort of just goes.
I've seen that. It looks good.
But my main on Xbox One is, and I'll mention this a little bit further down, but there's a promotion with Amazon Prime at the minute where you get Warframe, which is called Frost Prime.
I couldn't get this shit to work, and I was very upset.
Which is just it's lovely. At first, it was really weird going from the Excalibur, which I'd leveled up, and I'd really fallen in love with that kind of blade power that I was on about, and sort of going from a Warframe that was starting at like level 0 again, and decided to like try some different weapons out at the same time, and all of a sudden going from like being super powerful to not really being very powerful at all. Takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you start leveling this boy up, there's an ability called, because you can freeze people with, funnily enough, for a Frost Prime, you can freeze them.
Really?
Or there's a thing called I think it's called Snow Dome, where you just throw a snow dome over the immediate area, and it slows down the enemies that enter it, plus provides a protective bubble. So if you've, say, got something that you want to protect, like on certain missions, like with a cryopod or whatever it might be, you can sort of throw that up, and it will sort of slow the enemies down to going for alarms or whatever it might be. But the best one is called Avalanche, where and it takes like a huge amount of power to use, but is just a belter, especially if you've got a level where there's loads of chaos and there's every chance that you're going to be charging that back up. You can just throw out Avalanche, and it just throws this massively wide circle out and just goes like, and they all freeze. It like wakes about 5 seconds and then just detonates everybody. It's beautiful. It's so good. And so, yeah, I'm pretty smitten with Frost Prime, and if you've got Amazon Prime, he's free.
Free?
Yeah, free.
No pounds.
We'll go into that in a bit. But, yeah, combat itself is really fast, and there's loads of loot drops. I mean, loads of loot drops. The first thing we'll mention is that from the loot drops is there are cards. So these can be used when you return to your ship. You've got a spaceship that you can walk around inside. You can
change the colour of it.
You can change the colour of the floors, the ceilings, the walls. You can put posters up. You can put kind of statues at the front. You can do loads of stuff with.
Basically, remember when you were a teenager? You can do that.
It's pretty
posters
much
everywhere.
That, I think we've just renamed that ship Space Bedroom now. Although that is what it is, except I didn't really have a foundry in mind or the ability to raise kind of dogs.
Well, welcome to the spaceship. Keep out, Mum.
So these cards that I mentioned, they're drops during the levels, and when you get back to your ship, you can use them to customize your Warframe and your weapons. You've got an arsenal that you kind of your character walks into, and then it cuts to sort of like a little panel where you can select your Warframe, your different weapons, and stuff like that. So these cards can cover everything from like boosting energy, armor, giving elemental properties. There's so many variants that are in there, and later on you can amplify all of those abilities and kind of dial them up depending on sort of what you want, what your preference is. If you want to have like a scatter shot of loads of individual abilities, or if you kind of, God, what did I dial like my energy up on one to something like?
You put your health up to 200%.
200%, yeah, from a card that originally gave me like I think 40% like bonus. But there's loads of stuff, but you can play about with that sort of card ability that are in
and they're
there.
varied enough that like think of a stat that you want to change, and there's probably a card that'll do it. Like I've seen lots and lots of variety in there so far.
Well, you can lean into whether you want to boost your own energy and armor, or if you want to like lean into your status abilities or
enemy radar, this sort of thing.
And when you go into it at first, what I would say is, and this was a tip I'd heard from Tara and I hadn't really thought of it, but if you go into that ability slot and you've got all of your cards there, if you click in, I think it's the right stick, and then select auto mod, it will just pick the best and sort of fill them in, which is a great way of kind of just putting paint across the landscape and getting you started. And then when you start to finesse it in your own mind and go like, hold on, I'm not really using that a bit more, or I keep losing energy there, you can start, like I had a couple of machine guns, the Boltor and the Gigantor, I think, which were huge thundering kind of like things, but took a long time to reload. So I could then get a card and which would get me reloading, say 2.5% faster, like amplify that a little bit, and so I could fire even quicker. And you're basically finessing your gun as you go along, and the more that you use a weapon, the more slots kind of open up that you can expand your cards into, put more cards in. It sounds more complicated than it is, but there's a wonderful degree of making a weapon yours and it not just being what you originally see. I'd say.
I would agree.
And you know, you can find like blueprints for weapons. Like all
let's talk about weapons then, because like, so we spent a rather enjoyable half an hour going through. There's a codex in your ship. You can walk up and you
space bedroom.
Space bedroom. Sorry, get out, mum. There's a really cool codex you can go to. It's basically like an encyclopedia of all the stuff in the game, and you can look at all the Warframes and see what they do, and you can look at all the sort of weapons and items and companion pets.
And you can see their promos as they look stupendously cool as the camera pans around, like your Warframe holding them, or you know, like the Warframe that you're showing off, and it going dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. It's like a Terminator piece of music that goes over the top, and you're like, oh my god, how many times have we been like just looking at stuff and going like, oh my god, have you seen?
Yeah, or not even that, just going, oh, Kogage. oh, Furix. Oh.
I know. Have you seen?
Yeah, so there seems to be a ridiculous variety of weapons, and they seem to be, particularly in the melee weapons, because that's the stuff that I like to browse, because that's like my favourite sort of brand of weapon, if you will. There seems to be loads of different kinds. It's not just, there are swords, there are sticks, and there are hammers, and that is all you get. There's tons of variety. You've got like ninja nunchucks you can buy. You've got like what looks like a flail whip thing. It's got like a sword on one end and a big string in the middle and a punchy thing on one side. There's sword and shield combos.
Wolverine claws.
There's
those Tron guns that we haven't got mastery rank to get near yet, but they just look great.
There's my personal favourite, basically Cestus's, just like in Dark Souls. Drink! Which is like one's on your hands and one's on your feet, so you can just punch the crap out of everything, which appeals to my sensibilities very much so. There's these things called, I think they're called the Furax, and they're basically chainsaw blades that attach the back of your hands. Yes, please.
There literally is so much stuff in there.
Can I have those in real life?
The nice thing is that whenever I've loved a weapon and I've kind of I've got it sort of maxed out and stuff, there's a part of me that goes, I'm not going to love anything as much as this. And then oftentimes I've tried something out and ended up loving it more. And that's you know, relates to how I got on with Frost Prime and eventually sort of amped that up. But I got the blueprints for some gauntlets called the Ankyros, which literally just looked like...
They look like trilobites. They look like kind of like a Jurassic fish.
Yeah, they look like if you wrapped a metal bar around a glove on someone's fist It's essentially, but one on each. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to give this a go because I've gone through like a couple of swords and stuff. I'm going to go through kind of a punchy man sort of thing, and I just got so like the sound in the game is fantastic anyway. It's really satisfying to shoot these weapons. I mentioned like the Boltor rifle sounds like somebody is firing up a very powerful lawnmower in a shed down the end of the garden while you're in your bedroom. It's just this really old metallic...
Your space bedroom or your real bedroom?
Real bedroom, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess. But it was like this real kind of like, whiny kind of just fantastic noise. And I got the Ankyros and I sort of went along and I started just using them a lot of the time to try and level them up, but just really got into like just punching stuff and watching it burst. And it's got a great movement instead of like the backstab where you seem to pull somebody right back and like break their neck with it or something. It's really cool.
Mine have got that and it's delicious.
But I had a level the other day where I got through to I think it was the void I was in, and the stark contrast as you go through the game and you see how incredibly beautiful it gets is just a joy to behold. But I was on this place with all kind of polished marble floors, and yet there were these kind of robot people with like strange heads and like aliens coming after me and stuff. And the level was just literally to kill everything within the level, and I had to kill like about 180 people or something. And it was essentially Streets of Rage in space, where all I did was beat these things up. And I wanted to record it on the Xbox One, but I got the recording set to something like a minute and a half instead of like 5 minutes. I was like, I could have watched all of that back again. And afterwards, I thought, right, I'm going to amp these up a little bit more. So I'm going to take off a couple of cards to free a few slots, and I'm going to amplify the electricity side of things on one of the stats, and kind of played the level again just to run through it. And I didn't enjoy it as much the second time, just simply because I was making people burst with one punch a lot of the time. Whereas on the other one, it was a real kind of boxing, get up close, like poof, 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 poof. But it was great. It was so much fun.
I mean, speaking of the punch, like, was it quick like my guys got? Because the other night we played, and I was punching a lot of stuff, and the gloves I've got are very fast. It's like bam, 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 bam.
Yeah. And it's a real
because
kind
because I like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Every time I did it, I couldn't help myself doing the because
you were doing that on our PS4 playthrough the other day as well, and I was like, thank God I know you.
Yeah,
and I know what you're referencing.
It feels good to do a big lot of punches. Like throwing 100 punches a second is fun.
Because the Ankyros, like, whereas they, rather than them just being like regular gloves, they are kind of bulky, like boxing gloves, I guess. And there's this, even the way that he holds them, like in front of him, is quite a boxing stance. So when he just starts like ripping in with like boxing type tight to the chest punches and like these uppercuts and stuff, it's divine. I love it to pieces. And there's been times where there's just been literal chaos around me, and I've just been just it's been fantastic. And then maybe jumping out of the way when it got like too much, and then like ripping into something with the machine gun and stuff, and it's just
Speaking of jumping out of the way, like we've talked about it being fast, but like that's not just the shooting, is it? Like you can run around these levels and jump and flip and slide and do a really cool ninja jumpy spin jump thing.
There is the Crash Bandicoot jump in there as well. When you double jump, it absolutely is a Crash Bandicoot jump. But you were the one that was kind of experimenting with the kind of the slides and the dives and the John Woo moments. But
give me an opportunity to do a combat role in a game, and I will do it and do it until the button stops working.
Talk about it. I want to know what you think about the dives, the slides.
Yeah. So
The
it takes a while to
slowdowns.
discover all the things you can do. The tutorial does a good job of showing you the things you can do by giving you like, here is a thing that you is low, maybe slide. You go, oh okay, oh I can do a big long slide. And when you run, you're running around at a fair clip, and that's without hitting the sprint button where you run even faster. But like the regular movement is fast. A quick tap of L1 will send you into a nice little knee slide. Where you can shoot from, which is kind of fun.
Do you remember that one that I did the other night where you were in trouble, and was it like a security camera in the next room or somebody in the next room, and I just slid absolutely in the middle of like the gap between this doorway, like ran down, just literally went, pulled out my bow, still sliding, and then took the guy out from distance with a headshot. And
it looked brilliant.
Yeah,
it was cool, is what it was. It was like Legolas would do. It was cool.
It's belted.
Hyper competent. But like when you slide, if you jump from the slide, he'll do like a cool dash forward spinning in the air jump. And even my big fat Atlas guy can do that, and he looks majestic and graceful when he does it. There's double jumps, there's wall jumps. If you've got a big flat wall,
there's wall running
kick up
a la Titanfall.
Yeah, you can jump and do a punch off of the wall if you have punch weapons on, like Superman, which is a bit tricky but doable. There is backflips and side flips, but I've not quite got the measure of those yet.
Paddy. High wires.
Yes, there are high wires. So not only can you run around and jump and shoot things, if you smack the square button when you're near like a washing line or a power line type thing, you just jump up and run on the wire like a ninja man. And if you hit the slide button, you'll slide down that goddamn wire.
Also, again, this comes back to sound stuff. But when you're walking on the wire, it goes like a
yeah.
It sounds like the start up from Superstitious by Stevie Wonder.
Because I remember when I discovered that again on our PS4 save, I remember discovering that and saying, "Dude, you're like what? Like, come back, jump on this with me, and do a slide."
There's a certain level of, I mean, even considering sort of how bulky or how slender your Warframe is, there's a certain balletic quality to the entire game, like when you're running through a level. But if you choose to finesse that and you start like doing, I mean, I've seen certain Warframes that can like fly into the distance as well, like the ones that kind of. Whereas I can like jump and slide, I've seen people that have kind of jumped into the distance. Oh, I will mention as well that as well as the levels that we're kind of alluding to now, without going into detail about them, you can get something called an archwing, which is essentially like a big mech for your back, and you can go into massive space battles as well.
Sorry, a mech for your back?
Yeah, back mech. Do you like mechs? Have you got a back? But I'll never get one of those. Well, think again.
Back mech for kids.
So I'm not very good at the space battles, I must admit, but there are space battles in there too. But so the levels that you can jump into, the missions sort of take on a number of types. You could be finding and rescuing a captured ally, where you give them a gun or not. It's up to you.
I always give them my gun. I always
because they can proper handle themselves as well.
Yeah, I don't need my handgun. I've got my punch boy weapon.
Here we go.
I'm fine.
So and then you sort of all blast your way out. You might be going into a place and killing every single mofo in the place.
You might be defending a point. There might be a Warframe container that you have to defend from dudes coming at you.
Yeah, you've got waves of them like coming at you, and
the spy mission's quite good, where you have to sneak in and get some shit out without being detected, and inevitably goes wrong every single time.
Well, there's a certain degree of kind of holding my breath when I'm doing those, especially.
I think we average 2 out of 3, don't we?
But it gets a little bit more complicated as you go along. But I did discover that there's a thing that I can run through in my foundry, that because you've got these little puzzles that you can do as you go along to stop alarms and to get data out if you're doing like a spy mission. But as puzzles get more complicated, there's a thing that I've got in the foundry that can override those instantly, which is great. And there was a level that I was really stuck on for quite some time, so I like built up these sort of hacking abilities, and I went through it with another guy, and I said afterwards, like, sent a message on Xbox One. I was like, well played, and he was like, thank you, I was really stuck on that. It's like, this community is ace. So although we have, this is
it's now the time.
No, this is a peach. We for some reason your PS4 chat has the strangest comments in the world, but had one which was not only the funniest thing that I've heard in forever, but also just seems like this person maybe lives in like 2003.
Yeah, so we logged on together, and I looked at the chat, which comes up in the bottom corner. The first message I saw...
Settle in for this. Seriously, if you need to pause the podcast, maybe get a cuppa and a bun, or just maybe plump some cushions up. Just settle in for this.
But don't have a mouthful of the water or bun.
No.
Okay, so is your mouth empty? Good. So the message that I read on the chat, the first message I read, Wagwan Pifting, what's your BBM pin?
Beautiful. It's like poetry.
We laughed about that for 5 minutes straight.
Shakespeare from 2003. It's just genius.
Wagwan Pifting.
I need to greet everybody that way. Who did back then?
What year is this?
Pifting.
Even when it first came out, no one used BBM in 2014, did they?
Pifting.
What's pifting?
I don't know. It reminds me of, there was a lass I went out with a few years ago, and she was going back to the train station one day, and she says this guy walked up to her and just went, like, sucked through his teeth and just went, there ain't nothing as tight as you.
Oh.
And I was like, it's such poetry. It wouldn't surprise me if you'd just left me for him. I wish she had, in retrospect. But pifting, it's great.
Pifting. I had a good one yesterday when we were chatting. So the first comment was what someone put in the chat. What is the worst thing about Warframe? First response underneath, I'm 7. I lost it.
Do you think that might be them being unable to comprehend the might and the power of the Warframe in their limited life experience?
Maybe that's it. Maybe they don't have the current motor skills necessary to pilot these delicious space ninjas.
So yeah, there were loads of different missions you can do. There were, when I was playing earlier on Xbox One, there were vampire missions.
What?
On there. Didn't quite see sort of what was going on.
Hang on, Space Ninja vampire missions. That's fine.
It's just there were different points on the map that were sort of lit red, and when I moved over the cursor over to it, it said vampire mission, and I was underleveled for a lot of them, and the one that I clicked on was something that I didn't think that I could complete on my own, and I think the level might have still been a bit high for me. But I don't understand what a vampire mission is, but I've not wanted to look it up because I just like the thought that there's a vampire mission. I don't know what it is, but it sounds really enticing. But there's loads of them. There's one. It seems to be one across like each planet, as far as I can tell.
Ooh.
So
how do the missions work? So the missions work, so it's kind of separated by planet, kind of like that Destiny game does. So you've got a planetary map, and it'll have missions selected by the mission type, so like extermination or defense or spy or the other ones we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And
some we didn't.
And some we didn't, because I haven't played them yet. But you've probably got, maybe 12 missions per planet, something like that I've seen. I'm sure that's going to be only average, because they seem to change. And do you have to learn... I say learn, you have to earn the right to go to the next planet by kind of opening up a bridge, don't you?
Yeah, you have like a boss battle at a certain point with a dude, and whilst they're not that difficult at the start, I had an amazing one the other night where I think it might be to get through to either Sarah's or the Void or something like that. But this guy, essentially, like the tricks that I used sort of last time weren't working, and I kind of had to dodge out of the way of this guy's powers and try and figure out which of my abilities was the best to take him down and how to take him down. which was really cool. So it was this constant puzzle in my head. Meanwhile, sort of, if I was getting up close and doing something, it wasn't working, trying to run away, then trying to maybe take something out from distance, and trying to build all these combinations as to what I was going to do. But yeah, when you defeat one of those people, it not only opens up your pathway in a very beautiful manner, it has to be said, towards the next planet, but you also get rewards for doing so. So that could be blueprints for guns, or cards, or extra abilities. There's one early on which gives you kind of a little bit like imagine the ghost from Destiny. Yeah. But it's following you almost like a little add-on from like an R-Type or a shoot-'em-up, and in this case, it sort of chucks out a freeze ray.
Freeze ray is
fantastic.
Good.
Which not only slows enemies down as they come towards you, but also provides you with almost like a little extra radar. Because if there's somebody coming up behind you that you can't see, or you haven't noticed, or whatever, the thing will fire at the earliest thing that's there. So you can see the ray going behind you, and you're like, oh right, okay. But it's really, really good, and there are seemingly lots of variations of them. Some just look like kind of alien blobs, and there's a death cube, and
isn't one of them a tiny adorable fox?
Yeah, you can also bring in you can raise a kubro, which looks to be like some sort of fox cat dog thing.
Nice.
Which you have to get a kubro egg, and you have to incubate it on your ship. But as I understand it, if you get a kubro, and they will literally run off and attack things whilst you're on mission and stuff, you have to keep them fed.
Okay. That's interesting.
So yeah, you're looking after sort of the creature if you bring it in. But yeah, so there are other amazing little quirks.
So much like a 1990s bedroom, you've got a Tamagotchi.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, but they do look really cool as well.
Again, you can look at all this stuff in the codex. You can buzz through and just see everything, and you can see all the stuff you can earn, and all the stuff you can find, and all the stuff you could potentially buy if you felt so inclined.
Yeah, I mean, to give you an idea of the universe, though, first, I mean, if you remember the selection of planets in Destas.
4.
Was it 4? Was it 5?
Hang on. Earth, Moon, Venus, Mars, and eventually the Dreadnought. So 5 big ones, I guess.
Yeah.
5 big ones.
Yeah, well, Warframe has... Here we go. Let's see if I can get all these right, because they're all over the place.
Well, it's counting time.
Right, you can count, I will speak. We've got Derelict, Pluto, Eris, Earth, Lua, Neptune, Phobos, Mars, Sedna, Kuva Fortress, Ceres, Mercury, Venus, Uranus, Saturn, Dojo, Jupiter, Europa, and Void.
That's 19.
Thus far.
And I did do a little giggle when you said Uranus.
I know, either that or Uranus.
that
would have made you go like that. But the interesting thing is, and one of the curiosities where I was first looking into this after having the conversation with Tara, was there was a thing called TennoCon, where Warframe fans and the company sort of came together, and they were showing the future of the game, and basically the stuff that's coming. The game goes open world, and it just looks astonishing. It's
here's the thing, because the levels are usually quite here's a level, here's a level, here's a level.
Yeah, they're very sort of they are purely level based, and they're either chips or on the ground or in sort of these marble amazing sort of space halls. But this is proper open world stuff, and you can run around and sort of shoot stuff during the day, but when nighttime comes, in a Dragon's Dogma kind of way, the enemies become much tougher. There's this kind of massive sort of boss that's in there as well. Mm-hmm. There's some really neat stuff coming, which is why I have no problem supporting this company, especially based on the fun that I've had sort of so far. But I will say as well that we mentioned the missions that are there that you can go across the different planets and select yourself, but there are also little events.
Oh yeah.
Now,
like, kind of like so in Destiny, you know, when like stuff just turns up in the world, it's like go do that now, sort of like that, but more on like you've got an hour or two.
Yeah, I mean you've got in the corner of the screen, in the right hand corner, there's a little status bar, and you'll be notified when a mission comes up. Usually with kind of a sweetener for doing it of some sort. It might be a blueprint for a Warframe or materials. If nothing else, it's a way of bringing people together to battle. I don't know if there's a particular formula at Digital Extremes for doing this. Maybe they can see that certain people are looking at certain bits and can't do them, maybe, or would like a squad to do them, and it's a way of enticing like a number of folks to do it. Plus, you're getting something that you could potentially build or add to a concoction that you can take to the foundry. So you can do these solo, you can do them with friends, or you can open it up to the public as well. This usually makes me go kind of like when you have got other people in there, you're sort of like, what the chuff? What are you wearing? How are you doing that?
What happened last night? Didn't some guy have basically a flamethrower?
Yeah, he was just charging through the level. There was one today where some people had finished this mission before I had, and I was the last one back to sort of the end bit.
Extraction point.
Yeah, and they created a portal on the extraction point. They created a portal halfway sort of down from where I was running, and there was kind of an invisible kind of orange electricity running between the two, and I ran into the portal on the ground. This was like just after I'd turned the corner, and I was sort of going down towards it, and it just appeared on the extraction point.
Nice.
They can create literally ginger portals, Patrick.
I'm into it.
Yeah.
Did you text them and find out who they be and why they be and how I accomplish this?
There's been stuff where I've been doing this. Like one of the missions, there's one of the things that you can do. There's a cryopod on the ground which has got a dude in it, and you get like waves of enemies that are coming out at you, and you have to survive these in like 5, 10, 15, and you get extra bonuses for doing so. There's one guy who literally seemed to wait for all of the enemies to get close to him, then possessed a load of them, and set them onto like themselves.
Okay.
Well played, sir. Well played. There's loads of them where I just keep looking at like, oh, I like your colour scheme. What are you wearing? Oh my god, how did you do that? And that flamethrower dude was just wild yesterday.
Speaking of colour schemes, like you can customise your dude and your guns and everything like from the off. Like so from the moment you get to your ship, you can go over to your armory at the back, and you can just colour your shit in. And like, there's 5 colours you can choose for your guy, including energy. So when you're like doing a cool swish or a swoosh of a power, like you can choose what colour the power radiates out as. You can choose, like, you know, my guys, I always try and dress them in like some sort of orange, but my Loki, I had him in orange and green. My Atlas, I've got him as orange and white, like my old Sony Ericsson phone. Like the level of customization you can put on stuff, even from the word go, is brilliant. And
there are like extra scenes. You're jumping back into the characterization stuff. There is like little things like, oh, I've got a sword. Oh, I can add a little swishy bit on the end of it, can I? That's great. Oh, look, my bloke looks like a giant armoured bull. Oh, I can put little trinkets on the end of his horns, can I? Bonza.
I can put a cape on.
Yes, there are lots of capes and like kind of sidanas. They should like sort of little small
Capelets.
kind of ribbony capes. Yeah,
the one I've got is currently 2 tiny little winglets with 2 sort of strips of cape hanging off them, and they look beautiful.
Anyway, just to jump back into the event stuff. So yeah, whilst you can be drawn towards regular events, there are also these sort of Fisher events. Now you access these with kind of like a fancy conker or Kinder Egg is probably more accurate, which is your entry in.
It's like a relic or a lith relic or something, isn't it?
That's exactly what it's called, but I thought I'd break it down into Conkers and Kinder Eggs, also the title of my second album. But yeah, that's your entry in. So you need one of those to kind of do one of these events. You oftentimes end up coming out with more of them anyway. But it also gives you the option of a ton of fancy stuff once it's sort of cracked open by the end of the mission. So it's another way to earn different stuff. And when you're going into one of these sort of Fisher events, you choose what was it called? The Lilith fragments, was it?
Yeah, Lith fragment, and each one has a set of stuff you can get from it, and they all seem to be different so far.
And you can amplify them up as well, so you can sort of make them bigger and better. But
the thing I liked about it, so when you get to the end, if you're playing on your own, you just get a thing out of it. Like, here's the thing you get. Whereas if you're playing as a party, anything more than one of you can choose and you can pick the same as a friend got. So if you get your one that comes up, it's like, oh, I don't really want that, but your friend has the blueprint for something really cool that you want, like, say, a set of ninja claws, for instance. If that ever comes up, please, please, please let that come up. You can choose that, and then the person whose relic that was gets a nice little bonus as well, because you picked their thing.
Is that the point where you just, like, lock up at work and just run home?
Yep.
I've got an hour!
got to go!
Yeah. We will mention as well that when you log on daily, there is a loot box that you can open, and it might give you an item that's kind of cool, or a discount if you wanted to buy stuff at the store. If you wanted to kind of buy a Warframe or a gun or anything like that. That's how you got your Atlas Boy, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So we'll go into the pay stuff, because I know there's going to be a few folks going like, yeah, what's the catch?
Yeah.
So
what's the catch, CJ?
What is it?
What's the catch? What's the catch of the day?
I'll tell you, Pifting.
One.
Yeah.
Tell me on BBM later.
I'm 7. So the pay stuff. So you're given a Warframe and weapons at the start. You can earn blueprints along the way that can be combined with various parts and items that you get throughout the levels, and then build them in the foundry on your ship. Weapons have been pretty free-formed thus far, enough to keep me trying new stuff out. I've yet to build a Warframe, but I'm really close. You know that Sarin Prime that we got on PS4 last night?
Yeah.
The blueprint for it. On Xbox One, I think I'm like a few bits off being able to build it.
Oh, you prick.
Quite excited.
Ooh.
So yeah, I've not been able to build one myself, but I'm excited, and I'm pretty close to doing it. And it's going to be really special when it happens, because I've worked towards it. You can also buy Warframes and the weapons, if you like.
Yeah, so you can buy platinum is the currency, isn't it?
So yeah, these can be bought on the store. 75 platinum is £3.99. 170 platinum is $7.99, and things go up from there, and you get like bulk discounts and packs with guns and Warframes and all that kind of stuff.
Combiner packs and special packs that come up every now and again, that sort of thing.
But if you're buying a Warframe in the game, do they start about the 175 plat mark?
The cheapest ones are about 85. They're the starting ones, like Excalibur and Volt and Mag. Like, you can pick those up really cheap, and I think some of the older ones are quite cheap as well.
I mean, that's if you want to add to the Warframe that you've already gotten.
That's what I did. So that's what I did for Atlas, because I got my money off, or like my half-price platinum thing. I was like, okay,
from a loot box, yeah.
From a loot box, yeah. So it says, right, one purchase will be half the platinum it normally is. I was like, well, actually, that makes it kind of worth it now. So I hopped on and I grabbed a bit of platinum, and was enough to buy my guy. And given the amount of fun I've had with it so far, didn't feel that bad about it. I was like, yeah, go on then, that's fair.
So you're allowed, I think it is 2 or 3 Warframes, I think, before you either have to buy a new slot or delete the old one. Likewise with weapons, I think it gives you maybe 3 or 4 weapons per type, like the melee, rifle, bow, etc. Like those individual types. Buying a new slot is 12 platinum for weapons and 20 for Warframes.
That's
which
not
is
bad.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So if you're having fun and you want to keep going, you've got 2 choices. You can absolutely keep playing for free, delete some stuff or stick with what you've got, or you can chuck the devs some coin. The amount I've played this last month or so, I bought the Xbox One special pack at $7.99, which was 170 platinum, a gun which honestly I don't like, but I haven't really leveled it up yet. A skin for it, which is like an Xboxy type skin, which is quite nice, and a really, really cool sigil, which you can stick at the front of your character, and you can have it like quite translucent or super glowy and stuff. So for me, no problem chucking some money towards the devs for the amount that I've played and loved this last month. There's also a PlayStation Plus pack, which is free, which gives you, on top of the starting plat that you get 100 platinum, 50k credits, 3-day affinity booster, and a 3-day credit booster. As I mentioned earlier, if you get Amazon Prime, link your Warframe account, you get the Frost Prime Warframe free, which is amazing.
But look into how you do that, because mine didn't work.
Mine did.
Very jealous.
This Warframe is amazing, and I love it to bits. And I still haven't tired of the avalanche maneuver. So yeah, and there's some stuff coming up that they mentioned on stream where it's going to be, I think the 3 or 4 year anniversary of it being on Xbox One, and they're just giving you loads and loads of stuff. I think access to new shaders. The Xbox shaders is going to be like 1 platinum, and they're gonna chuck some stuff at people. They even had an event recently where when the eclipse was on, there was like a big eclipse outside your ship, and they had a mission where you could go and earn like this really special skin, and it was only going to be for like a couple of hours, and some people went, we have jobs, help, and they were like, yeah, we'll extend that for like a couple of days or something. But this leads into the community. The community is astonishing. The fans are incredibly vocal and passionate. They led a fellow who goes by Skill Up on YouTube into checking out the game, and he made a stunning really brilliant video detailing everything about it. They keep going back to him and going like, there's a level called, I think, the Second Dream, which is a whole world of special, allegedly. I don't want to go too far near it because I want it to be a surprise, which is like 100 hours into the game. The stuff I've seen for the new Chains of Harrow release as well, it looks really Dead Space. It looks like really kind of dark and brooding and scary.
Gross horror.
Yeah, it looks really neat. But yeah, Digital Extremes themselves I've just been nothing but impressed. There's a like on Twitch, there's an Xbox One at 1 stream on Monday, a PS4 at 4 stream on Tuesday, a PC stream. There's developer streams, all featuring contests. They're really relaxed, really funny. There's a pleasure to watch. There was a thing the other night as to if you could, instead of having like a Kubro, if you could have like a little pot-bellied pig, and what would you call the pot-bellied pig? Which is great. People coming up with like the Big Lebowski and Peter Porker, and there was some great ones. There really were. But one of the questions in there that they said on stream, which was the thing that I was asking people at work, was if a fish is in water, is it wet, or is it only wet if it's dry and it's then splashed?
Fuck.
This was in stream, and I was pissing myself laughing. And they were saying stuff like, can a fish see water? Can you only drown a fish if you pull it out of the water? It was making me giggle. It was great. Fans have created Warframe designs, which have been, I think either skins or main designs, which have been sold in the store, with them getting a share of the profits. It's happened with the soundtrack too, apparently. There's a big focus on fan art, with artwork being shown on streamed, like printed out in really beautiful, like high quality printer, and then pinned on the board behind them.
Aww.
It's the best connection I've ever seen between a company and fans. Like seriously. The game, I've just, like I say, it's all I've played like this last 5 weeks. All I've played. And there's a distinct difference between playing it on my own and being able to sit down for a few frames off frame.
Very good.
And you know, we brought in our friends Pete and Gav a few weeks ago to run them through it, and they were having a good laugh with us, and that was sort of much more chaotic. We were trying to explain the game as we went on.
Not because it scales with players, there was a lot more shit cracking off, and that was fun.
Yeah, it was great, but it was also ace to hear them kind of really clicking with it and really knuckling down with just the chaos that was happening. And then we could, when we got back to the, you know, our individual space bedrooms, we could run them through kind of the arsenal and the cards and all that kind of stuff. What's been your favourite stuff thus far?
For me, like in terms of like just generally in terms of the game.
Yeah. Whatever's like really jumped in.
I think the thing that I enjoy about it, the thing I like the most, is just like the fluidity of it. Like the fact that you just move around the world in such a way, like it's fun to run about. Like I really liked Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance because you could dash around that world and just jump off stuff and do cool flips and be a cool ninja guy. And this
that's where my platinum sort of thing like grew out of, because it does feel like super runny, swishy.
Totally. And the characters they've given you, like, I really like that there seems to be a big differentiation in like how they all work. It's not like, well, this one's got a gun power and this one's got a sword power. Ooh, this one's got an axe power. It's a little bit different. Like every single Warframe, well, as far as I've explored myself anyway, seems to have its own theme, its own idea. There's a guy called Limbo who can kind of whip in and out of like kind of a phased out like limbo world and do damage to enemies in there, and then whiz out to the normal world and then leave enemies in the limbo world. And there's all sorts of stuff he can do like that. Or like we were talking about at the start of the show, Octavia, whose powers seem to be disco based.
I have to look that up, but part of me just wants to kind of get the Warframe and then just go, oh my god.
Yeah. And like there's every like other one I've dug into, like there's Hydroid, who's the water guy whose powers seem to be about, he's got one where he makes a big puddle on the floor, vanishes into it, and then he can swim around inside and pull enemies into the puddle and then beat them up inside the puddle. Like they all just seem so mad and different, and the fact that it just lets you have so many of these weird diverse powers, and as well as like having, oh, here's some guns as well, by the way, here's some mental guns. Do you want some mental guns and some mental punching weapons and some mental powers? Here you go, mix and match. And like, I really like it's a free-to-play game, so you naturally assume have a big bucket of poison on the side of that. But the poison, it's not there. Like, sure, like you're going to hit a point where you will need to pay some dollar because grinding this shout is going to take longer than it really should, and I think all games like this do have that problem where you do get to that point where you just can't, say you're like farming particular items, like it will take you an age to do it. But the amount of content in here and the amount of like playability that's there and the amount of fun you can have with it, like I'm not adverse to throwing a few quid every now and again.
Nope, 100% not. And I think
that's how I got on my Atlas, because I saw this boy and I thought, that's a neat looking boy. That seems like a boy that's up to my spec.
It is a very you Warframe, it has to be said.
Stand in the middle, punch things, and throw mountains at people. Okay.
I think the core of the game is that wonderful action fluidity, which is just an absolute joy to play. But surrounding that is loads of stuff that doesn't explain itself, that you can kind of, have chats with other people that are into the game. Or
like the other day, you got 50 endo. What's endo?
Right, endo.
Oh, bollocks.
This is endo is the stuff. You generally, I seem to get it from doing missions, I think. But endo is something that you can plug into your cards, and that's how you amplify the cards, and that's how you use that. To make your cards bigger and better, in the same way as I took like a 40% health boost on one card into like 225 or whatever it was. But that's what you do. So there's loads of stuff around the levels that you can pick up, which will build weapons, or you've got your blueprints for your warframes and all that kind of gubbins. But yeah, there's stuff that's on the side of it. There's stuff that you have to figure out, and there's stuff that you can talk to people about. And I like the conversation. I always like those conversations. But even when you get a Warframe and you see something and you go, yeah, that looks really cool, it looks really weird, or you get a weapon, you might not see the best of that weapon until the final parts of leveling it up, where you've freed enough slots, or maybe your Warframe is advanced enough that you can use loads of powers. And that's what makes it interesting when you have sort of fully charged something up, and you just think, right, I'm going to start a base level with something again and like build outwards. And
here's the weird thing. Like on the same coin, like I did a mastery test the other day, which is where you can kind of raise your your Warframe's kind of, I suppose it's mastery level. Like it's a separate thing to leveling up. Yeah,
it allows you to access like different weapons and
almost like a license. Almost like a license. In
100%.
You know, you've got a license test. And it's like, okay, so defeat all the enemies in this area with your melee weapon. I was like, cool, my punch boy weapon is really good. And I was running around. I started hitting the punch button, but he started doing knee strikes in the middle of the punches, and I'm like, what is happening here? How do I make that happen? And then
I was listening to you on this because it was right at the end of kind of the time that we've done, and just like the level of like, I was like, you were right. And
we were trying to talk, and I had to stop because I was trying to focus on what the hell I was doing. Like, how am I making these knee strikes happen? And I went back to the main game, and they didn't happen anymore. So I'm thinking there's more to this thing than I've got so far. Like, there's got to be something I unlock the power of knees.
Because there's lots of stuff that happens in levels. I mean, I said earlier on about oftentimes I can be going through something just going like, why is there a man throwing fire at me and dogs coming at me? But all of a sudden you might get somebody that's using kind of that looks like a regular enemy but all Bioshocked up, and he's walking along in an electric bubble that you can't shoot through, but you can run into and punch them in the face until they burst. Or you get like these little sort of sentinel creatures that come out and throw shields around the enemies, but later on you might get more of them that throw shields onto the things that are throwing shields on the enemies, and you just have to decide as to whether kind of, I can take these out, or this is a clusterfuck, I need to run.
But when you want to run, boy, how can you go?
There's something that I've seen intimated with Chains of Harrow. I think there's a creature called the Stalker that starts trying to track you down through the levels.
Cool.
It sounds very Resident Evil. You remember like the remake with is it the Red Zombie?
Yeah, the ones that just chase you.
So
fuck, that's cool.
Yeah, and it's when you kind of hear these little bits, or you see something, you just go like, I don't know what's going on. Or there was one bit where, because there seemed to be a number of different enemy types. This kind of like quite a robotic sort of race.
The Grineer, aren't they?
Grineer, yeah,
the ones with the big bodies but really tiny shins.
There's an alien race that are in there as well, kind of like a little bit like the Flood from Halo, I guess. And there was one bit where I went, hold on, what's going on? Like the robot race that I've been trying to kill as well, might I add, are trying to hire me to take on the alien race, because the alien race are trying to invade their planet or whatever it might be, and they're giving me sweeteners to fight alongside them, and then you go into a level and basically loads of the enemy that you've previously been fighting are now fighting alongside you against the enemy, which is like, that's bonkers.
Mental.
Yeah, and again, the game just keeps pulling stuff out and keeps being surprising and inventive and brilliant, and you know, your lead into doing this is nothing, but I will always.
Do you know what it is as well, mate? Do you know what it is? It's free.
Yeah, I mean,
this is free. But that first night we played, we shouted that at each other about 10 times. Like, this is free.
We did.
Like when I did the slide on the wire the first time, like, this game is free.
Yeah, it's great. But I've got no problems at chucking money towards this sort of thing. And the weird thing is that I saw there was a news article with regards to, I'm sure it was something like For Honor or Lawbringers not really having that many people that are playing stuff on Steam. And they showed the top 10 most played games on Steam. And I think Warframe was number 7.
Really?
Yeah, and like, this is a game that isn't getting its due in the media. People aren't talking about it, and maybe it is like the Easy Allies thing. They just think that people can download it if they fancy it, and
if that was the case, though, if that was the case, League of Legends and Dota wouldn't get half the fucking press they do.
100%. But this is a brilliant game, and it deserves more than it's getting. And you know, I've been so excited to talk about this for, like I say, the last 5 weeks. I think it's been slowly sort of building up, and I've been becoming more and more kind of enthused and finding extra stuff on there. People need to play it, and I 100% want to support the devs on this. If all of this podcast sounds like an advert, it is, because I want more people to get into this, because it's a fun game at the core.
Yeah, they paid us.
Yeah, no. Just to put that out there, no. As with most things, they probably don't know we're live. But yeah, I mean, even that community connection, you don't get that if you've been like fleecing your players and stuff. And not only are the folks that are playing it like incredibly passionate, but that many dev streams during the week. They're going open world with it, so I find it staggering, but it is just a joy to play, an absolute joy to play. I mean, if anybody's got any questions, just chuck them across on Twitter, because like me and Paddy will answer them as best as we can. But again, there's tons we don't know yet, and that's really enticing.
I'm picking up blueprints of stuff that means absolutely nothing to me, and it's kind of cool. Like, I've got a thermo. What's a thermo?
But there is stuff that I've now like built in my foundry that's now sitting there, because like I've got the Ankaros, like the punch weapons, which I'm still not over, and I don't know if I'll ever get beyond them. But the history of weapons in Warframe is that I've become attached to a weapon, I've tried something else and end up loving it more, and I have a hammer in my foundry now.
Okay.
That's built.
Ooh.
And part of me's like, do we go full hammer? So, but I kind of would like a fresh Warframe to go with that. So I don't know if I'm gonna wait and see if I can get the rest of this Saris Prime, which I'm missing a few elements and like one key bit to build it, or if I'm just gonna kind of buy a Warframe. I've got my eye on a Nyx Warframe, but I've got a blueprint for it and a really nice skin, and I'd quite like to build it. So I don't know, and I feel that Disco Warframe is just that's for you.
That will be mine.
Yeah, that's
the
for
power of Disco.
Yeah, but it's great, and I'm made up as well that we're both enjoying it. That because it's at times when you've been, barely had a day off sort of recently.
Okay, to put it in perspective, tomorrow, being Thursday the 31st of August, will be my first day to do nothing and sit on my ass for about 3 weeks. Yeah, so yeah, I've been all over the shop.
I've sort of had a new job and like daft shifts as well, but throughout that, it's been fun to kind of. This has been the game that I've played in the morning or in the afternoon if I've been on an early shift, or when I get home, which has just been pure pleasure before I've kind of crashed out. And we had so much fun again last night on this. Just such a huge laugh. It's a belter, and please download it and see for yourself. I promise you won't get a full measure of it early on, but you'll get an idea of that core gameplay. And I think if anybody's got a little resonance with like older consoles and stuff, you'll kind of like the level-based stuff that you see early on. You'll see how good that bow is. You'll stab somebody in the back. You shoot that Robocop gun, and you'll be like, you know what, this is really good. But you won't get a measure of it. I still not got a full measure of it. I've barely done probably about a third of those planets, but there's still stuff that's cropping up on the earlier planets where there's a level 35 boss battle that's there. There's these vampire missions that I have no idea what they are.
And if you, to be honest as well, like it's worth the price of admission just to sit and watch the chat for a bit.
It is on yours. I don't know who's chatting on yours.
Everyone that's talking about the game, there's at least 2 other people talking absolute nonsense. It's very enjoyable.
But yeah, if you do fancy this, please download it. Please let us know what you think, because I'd quite like to do another one of these with how far we've gotten in the meantime, and seeing who picks it up and who enjoys it. That's going to be neat.
I would like to do some more frame.
Yeah, more frame.
No
way.
What
you did there. But if you're part of the community and this is the first time that you've listened to us, please take our ignorance and enthusiasm.
We're sorry.
Please take like our ignorance and enthusiasm and just see them as like all kind of a genuine.
We're young. Mix. We're young. We're trying.
We're not though.
We're old. We're trying.
Yeah, we're trying to drown out the sounds of the abyss. But
who's that at the door? It's death.
It's been ace to have this now because I've been building up for it for a long time.
You've been bursting for this, haven't you? I was like, I'm away for another week.
Crazy about this.
I could hear you just groaning every time. I was like, well, I'm away this weekend.
I've even been like dropping like little hints on Twitter, but like I am so obsessed about a game and I can't wait to talk about it and podcast it. What's the game? You'll see soon. I've been sort of quite vague about it, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed the listen. Please download it. Please let us know what you think, because it's free and it's brilliant. And
if you've got any questions, just send us your BBM pin and we can chat.
Yeah, piftings. So
it's still funny 2 weeks later.
It is still funny. Or it would be, but I'm 7. Good night.
Good night.
Or good day. Good day. The Lord has spoke to us inside our minds. Rifle, gun, melee, and frame, picked out in time. We smacked the pancake face of Captain Vaughn. Hello, is it us you're looking for? I picked up a cold frost pine
and I got an atlas frame.
I exploded men's with cold stone.
I punched a robot off a mountain.
Tell us how to boost our cars, 'cause we're trying to work it through, and we need to process so much and do.
I don't think that sounds right.
I think it'll be fine.
I love the squelchy burst of the grenade. Smack a robot's stupid bucket hat into the air. I really want a gingerhead coupe, bro. Tenno,
we've just got to let you know